So yeah, like this has been a topic that I've been very much like wanting to kind of make a video on myself. The only problem is that I don't play Arena Breakout. Uh, it doesn't really appeal to me. Like, just I don't know. It's something about the visual style. It's also something about the like I don't know. The game just does not appeal to me. It's kind of hard to explain. But I am actually getting more and more and more interested in trying it out and playing it potentially. The more and more stuff is moving in the direction it is. Let's say that with Tarkov, because I think ABI. I'm just gonna give you like my sort of summary of it before we start watching the video. So ABI to me is kind of doing what was the golden era of Tarkov. That's what they're focused on, because Tarkov, as I've said in many other videos and on stream and shit tons of times, Tarkov, and again I'll credit Landmark for it because I think he puts it very well. He said that Tarkov hit this magic formula, kind of accidentally stumbled upon this magic formula, and think 2019, early 2020 Tarkov, right? It was fucking amazing. I've played Tarkov since 2015, 2016. Tarkov was in the best state it's ever been at that point, right? Now, what's interesting is that they stumbled upon this magic formula, but instead they just kept pushing through and have moved away from that magic, right? And as a result, lost that magic, obviously. And that is why I think Tarkov is not as popular as it was, and is kind of struggling to keep up player numbers, to anywhere close to the levels it was. ABI saw that success, and I think took a lot of inspiration from exactly that version of Tarkov. And as a result, are doing pretty fucking well, right? And ABI has done nothing but climb in popularity. I think that is why. I think it's because they saw, wow, Tarkov is really popular and it's a really successful game because it's doing exactly this. And then they decided, let's make that, right? Let's make a competitor. Let's do that. Because I don't know if they consciously recognize that, oh, some people in the Tarkov community aren't liking the direction Tarkov is moving, so let's make a game for them. I think that was a little bit of a happy accident on their part. I think they probably just wanted to directly compete with Tarkov as an alternative, maybe primarily a Chinese alternative, I don't know, in the Chinese markets. But they were maybe like, that was initially the plan. And then they just kind of caught a lucky break or just had a happy accident when Tarkov pushed so far away from what made it good and started losing that magic, and as a result also losing the player base, which then would find a lot of appeal in ABI, right? So that is kind of my impression and kind of my sort of summary of it. So let's get into the video. So why Arena Breakout Infinite? Oh, Jesus, that was a good intro. Why Arena Breakout Infinite is going to surpass Tarkov by Bill Butts. So let's see what Bill has to say.
Escape from Tarkov versus Arena Breakout Infinite. Which is the better game? Which is the better product? Who deserves to win the war for your...
Tarkov is uncompromising art. ABI is yet another example of the Zhanzhai culture, and it undermines the Chinese image abroad. Okay.
Or wallet on a moral level. In a
what? Tarkov is like multiplayer stalker? No, it's not.
Moral level. In a nutshell, I think Tarkov is currently the GOAT for extraction shooters, but I'm still playing ABI and haven't touched Tarkov since about August. And I want to
yeah, as I think a lot of people have.
Talk about why that is, and why I think Tarkov is set to be surpassed by ABI, both in terms of player base and revenue, by, I'm going to say, about August 2026. Assuming that the ocean-based non-human intelligence operating the drone swarms over the East Coast don't decide to initiate humanity's next interspecies war, we're currently 0-1 against the emus, and the Stingray situation is ongoing, but mercifully contained to the...
That's a good joke. That is a good joke.
British banishment zone. I expect to see another 2 to 3 maps, way more skin options, better quest design, and a significantly larger player base of people who want the Tarkov experience without shelling out 250 US crypto doubloons. Free-to-play games have dominated the market for like a decade now because pay for only the cosmetics you want is a sales model that everyone can get behind. That's not to say that ABI's monetization...
I would disagree with that. I'm actually going to make a video about that. I think slight digression here, slight digression. But I think skins is a sort of sketchy, slippery slope kind of. It's hard to. I don't know. It's hard for me to like get 100% behind it. Again, I'm gonna make a video on it. I don't really have a complete stance on that issue. That's probably also one of the reasons I haven't played ABI is because it's free to play. But that's a different topic. Yeah,
monetization model is preferable to Tarkov's, though. It's extremely easy to criticize ABI's monetization for many reasons. If you were to actually pay for a giant keyring and a 2x3 secure case every month, you'd be in deeper than a Tarkov standard account in like 3 months. And that's not
exactly right. No.
Even touching the certifiably insane gacha pricing for some of the least inspired skins money can buy in any video game. If you want to compare apples to apples, what's the better game right now? There's absolutely no question. It's Tarkov. Like, what are you fucking kidding me? It's got more maps, a better physics engine, the scariest gun sounds I've ever heard in a game. The quests are simplistic, but
holy fuck, the bitrate on that clip.
but
look at that. Look at that. Oh, that is funny. What the fuck? Look at that. I can literally see the pixels. Like, the pixels are like 1 centimeter on my screen. Jesus.
Quests are simplistic, but significantly more engaging than ABI's so far.
Yeah.
And the long-term satisfaction you get from grinding from a...
Yeah, I think so. I think like probably what ABI is doing the best on, or Tarkov is doing the best on and sort of holding on with, is that it's just so established, right? It just has so much existing content in terms of maps and weapons and all of the stuff that's already in the game, because they got a head start, right? They got a head start, right? So I think that's probably the big advantage that Tarkov has over ABI.
Level 1 thug to a level 44 street mobster with a Bitcoin farm and a standard kit that runs about 500k on the low end. I mean, there's no comparing. Sure, Nikita might be a chronically dishonest little rat fuck who doesn't respect the players keeping his studio lights on and likes to play dumb about what the definition of DLC is, but he's also an artistic genius, unfortunately. I mean, that's pretty...
That's kind of, dude, that's kind of a good definition. I mean, I think Nikita gets a lot of shit he doesn't deserve. But there is a good amount of hypocrisy in the BSG offices, right? And okay, now I don't know if anyone else remembers this, okay? Again, I want to make a video about this. I have not investigated it, but it's very interesting to me because I'm fairly certain way back, right? When I started playing Tarkov, one of the cornerstones of what the developer sort of stood for was that there was going to be no microtransactions and no skins, right, in the game, or like paid skins, because microtransactions, that's what fucking paid skins on the BSG website is, a fucking microtransaction, right? And that wasn't going to be a thing in the game. I am like, seriously, I am fairly certain I heard Nikita say that and BSG state that multiple times early on in Tarkov, okay? Fairly sure. Again, I haven't looked back at it because that's fucking, what, 8-9 years ago? At the very least 6 years ago, probably. I don't remember it. My memory's not that good. But I do want to go back and see if I can try and find interviews and shit like that and see if that's actually the case, because I'm fairly sure I remember that. I might be wrong, and maybe I just made that up in my head. And it's wishful thinking, but I'm fairly fucking sure that was one of the things that made me feel so good about supporting Tarkov, was that stance, they were like brutally against that. That was not going to happen in their game. And I found that kind of, oh, okay, good. That's another reason why I feel, I can buy EOD, And then obviously that went out the fucking window, if they ever said that, which, again, I believe they did. That went out the fucking window because now we have microtransactions, paid skins, right? And, that EOD owners would never have to pay for anything again. Then we get unheard. It's like they've shit their leg multiple times with stuff like this. Multiple times at this point. And gone against their own word on stuff. So there is a good amount of hypocrisy in going on with BSG and Nikita. But it's... I don't know. It's a tricky situation, right? Because how much can you blame Nikita? How much is he withholden to, keeping the lights on in the studio. I don't know, you know, like does he have ultimate control over every single decision? You know, it's like, it's hard to say, right? Because there's so much stuff going on behind closed doors that we the players will never know about. And obviously they do want to make money, and I think that's why Unheard came. That's why we're getting these paid cosmetics now, I think. And the fact that BSG are betraying themselves and their word, I think, is because the player base cannot effectively monetize the game anymore. They blew up in 2019, 2020, made a ton of money, have used up that money, and they don't recruit new players to their player base sufficient enough to support the game. As a result, they have to monetize the game in other ways, i.e. Unheard, paid cosmetics, stuff like that, right? So I think that's why they're ruining their reputation, is because they ruined their game. And people don't really want to play their game anymore, and there's no real influx of new players into Tarkov, which means they don't make money, and anyone who wanted to buy Unheard has bought Unheard, and people like me who refuse to buy it will never buy it, right? So they've just maxed out their potential with Unheard. So now it's just a matter of, okay, how many skins can we make to make money to support the game and the studio and servers and all of that stuff, right? So yeah, it's but it's pretty shitty to ruin your reputation over that. You have to sacrifice your reputation because you made shit design decisions. That's a pretty rough road. So, but yeah.
Pretty par for the course, right? There's no shortage of great artists out there who are infamously problematic people.
True.
This faceless, schizophrenic Nazi ghoul wrote Graduation. And I already know you only wanted to grow up in the UK because of a children's book series written by a billionaire TERF. Like it or not, Tarkov is an incredible game.
Billionaire TERF? What is he talking? Is he talking about J.K. Rowling's, like, trans exclusionary radical feminist? Isn't that what TERF is, right? Like, is that a bad thing? No, I'm kidding. Oh, Jesus.
And Nikita is the reason why. The music is incredibly unique and captures a somber but badass energy that makes you feel like you are
Alex, what is it called? Alex Slaughter? No, Slaughter to Prevail. What is his name? Alex Terrible. That's his name, the vocalist.
About to go fuck up some bears, but at the same time,
yeah,
you remember that your homie didn't make it, and that kills you inside. The level design and map artists are perhaps the best in the entire biz, and
that is very true. People talk a lot of shit about Tarkov and its maps and stuff like that, and critique performance, and that's one thing. Like, performance is one thing to critique, but Streets, what a fucking map, dude. What a fucking map. Oh, like, I'm a sort of self-proclaimed Streets main, and I fucking love that map so much. It's so good. It's I'm like, please don't split it. Please don't split it. Please don't split it, because I don't think it would work that well if they split it in two. Like, apparently they've been kind of planning in order to sort out performance issues. I mean, sure, it might get more people to play it, and that would be fun, but I think there's probably a lot of other areas. Oh, Jesus, sorry. Where they should focus on sort of harvesting performance, I think.
There's just an added level of passion and grit here that imitators have yet to even approach in the genre. And beyond that, this dude has written books, and there's movies, and all sorts of extra content that just sort of builds this world up. This much lore for a stupid-ass looter shooter, and half the mechanics that are actually in the game are stuff that people actively don't want, like mortar strikes and tripwires. When people tell him, hey, Nikita, that sounds fucking horrible, I just want some graphical optimization, he tells you to get good and that you don't know shit about video games or coding. It's an uncompromising and almost hostile attitude for a game developer, and
very true, yeah.
And it probably shouldn't work, but yet Tarkov is still utterly unassailable as the...
Yeah, and that's kind of my point, right? Is that Tarkov is getting by on being unique. That is it. They hit a niche. That's what their head is above water on. Is the fact that they have that unique thing and they have a head start on everyone else. And because they were the OGs, right? No one did Tarkov before BSG. No one did anything like Tarkov before BSG. That's what they're surviving on, because their attitude is fucking horrible. They're almost arrogant and condescending towards the community, and have this very strong attitude of you know, people don't know what they're talking about. You know, and you can see it with Nikita as well in interviews. The guy seems almost uninterested in being in a fucking interview with someone like Pestily, who's like a very nice guy, right? I watched the latest interview with Nikita and with Pestily, and the guy's almost like, he just like radiates, "You're not worth my time." And I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, for the fucking head of his studio, that is not a good look, you know? That your community of your players and the people who create content in that community is not worth your time, and you're sitting there like not even paying attention to questions, half answering. You can just tell the guy's just like, he's just not there mentally. Bro, what a fucking bad look. That is terrible, to present your game and your studio in that manner, or to represent, sorry, your game and your studio in that manner. Fucking despicable, bro. I really was like shocked when I saw that interview, because I don't think I've seen an interview with Nikita for like a couple of years before that. And I was like, just what the fuck, bro? What is going on? Like, what kind of attitude is this in a fucking interview? He's always been peculiar, right? But I don't feel like he's been like that before. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong, but maybe he has, and I've just not seen that. But Jesus Christ. And it's like this arrogance almost, this like condescending view of your player base. What the fuck? Now, I agree, a lot of gamers don't know what good game design is. They don't. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the fucking truth. So many people who play video games have no idea what good game design is. And they think that, oh, just because I instinctually want something, or I instinctually think something is good, that means it's a good gameplay decision. No, it's not, right? Or a good game design decision. No, it doesn't, right? Like, holy shit. There's a lot of arrogance in the Tarkov community as well, right? There's a lot of people in the Tarkov community. Unfortunately, I think most of the people have actually gotten their way, who sit there and insist that, you know, oh yeah, it's good game design, just because they want it. I'm like, what the fuck, bro? No. You have no idea what good game design is. And I think that's why Tarkov is dying. You know, that's why ABI is gonna conquer it. It's just a matter of time, I think. And it's because of that. It's because BSG has a condescending attitude of not listening to the players who do know what would be good for the game. They failed to recognize what the game does well and why it was so successful when it was so successful. They failed to recognize that completely. Or if they did recognize it, they just decided that, yeah, no, we know better. Fuck it. We know better. We don't want to listen to this. We don't want to, all the success the game has? No. That doesn't mean anything, because we know better. Like, I don't know. It's just a fucking shitty attitude. And they really, really shit their leg on that front. Honestly. But yeah.
The hardcore extraction shooter.
But yeah, it is unwavering, and Nikita doesn't cave, and I'll give him that. The problem is, he fucking caves on the wrong stuff, and he doesn't cave on the wrong stuff. Because the shit he should cave on is this sort of hyper idealism of his own vision for the game, and this refusal to acknowledge that, hey, okay, maybe that's a cool fantasy, but maybe it doesn't quite work that well in a fucking video game. He just refuses to acknowledge. And then instead, the stuff he does cave on is the promises he made to the community, right? Like no skins, no paying for anything after you pay for EOD, you know? Like, oh, you won't have to pay for anything again. All DLC, everything is yours, right? Like, come on. He's caving on the wrong stuff, and he's being unrelenting in the wrong stuff. If you swap those two around, Tarkov, man, could have been so fucking good. Yeah, man, Jesus.
I think that's because of the intensity of Nicky's directorial vision. And as a result, Tarkov has left a trail of imitators' bodies in its wake for years. So, like, how in the fuck can ABI, a blatant, shallow copycat game with only 4 maps that are all pretty mid, with more generic-looking graphics, potentially stolen code, dog shit monetization, and a generally stripped-down experience devoid of hideout build-up, crafting, scav karma, etc. Like, how can that possibly hope to compete with the GOAT? The answer? Optimization, and it's fucking free. That's all it takes.
I don't think that it's fucking free. I don't think so. I think that's super overrated, because people always like advertise it as that, right? And then they say like, oh yeah, no, but it's like a low barrier to entry, and that's like the only thing that I think, yes, that probably is the only advantage of that is the barrier to entry. The thing is though, most people spend way more than $40, $50, $60 a month on something, right? On a hobby, on other video games, on cosmetics in games, right? There's people like, this is not a lot of money. I'm serious right now. This is going to sound really, really harsh. If you cannot play a video game because you cannot afford it, you're bad with money. You are bad with money. Because if you cannot afford, if you're an avid gamer, I'm not talking about if you're like literally poor and starving to death. I'm talking if you are a working middle class, whatever, that has enough money to be an avid gamer on the regular, and you can't play games or a game even because it's not free to play, you're bad with money, and that is your problem. That is not something the game needs to accommodate, okay? That's just like, holy shit. And I don't know, whoever says that, oh yeah, no, like, you know, being free to play is just such an advantage because, you know, it lets people actually afford to play the game. What the fuck are you talking about? Everyone can afford to play a game. Everyone. Holy shit. Like, the only people who I could see that be the case for is like maybe students, right? Who don't work a part-time job and don't have parents supporting them and live in a bad part of the world. I don't know. So like, that is not a big amount of players you're losing out on by not being free to play. It isn't, trust me. The bigger part of the getting people to play your game is just the how it's marketed and how it's opinionated about, right? Like, how is the game portrayed and indirectly advertised through content creators, stuff like that. That's the thing, right? That matters way more. The exposure, basically, matters way more than the price tag. I think the optimization part, he's 100% correct about. I think that is a huge part of it. Huge part of it is the optimization, the fact that people can run it, because that's a different thing. One thing is not being able to afford to buy a fucking game or a subscription to a game or whatever. But another thing is being able to buy top of the line CPU, top of the line GPU, fucking top of the line RAM, like, which is a huge deal in Tarkov, by the way. Like, you need everything, you know, like graphics card maybe is a little bit more lenient on that. It's not really very GPU bound, but good CPU, good RAM. You're kind of forced to play AMD, by the way, as well. 9800X3D, that the king, right? And it's like you're forced to use very specific tech. And that's with the RAM as well. You kind of want to clock RAM as high as you can, and you want low latency RAM. That is apparently very advantageous in Tarkov from every guy who knows what they're talking about when it comes to that I've seen, at least, and tested that. That seems to be the case in Tarkov. That shit can get fucking expensive, right? On that point, yes, I think there's a valid argument to make that you don't want to block people out of playing your game by having people have to have top of the line tech. And even then, by the way, I have a 7800X3D in this PC that I'm using for Tarkov now. I'm going to upgrade to the 9800. And it's like, I'm still not getting good frames. Still, a scope on streets is ass, you know? Like, still, you know, here I am. I have CL30 RAM, you know, 6,000, right? It's like, it's not super highly pushed or anything like that, but, you know, it is what it is. Overclocking RAM is, a bitch, so I don't really want to bother with it. And I don't think I'm going to gain that much off it, but that's a digression again. But yeah, it's like, it still runs ass, even for someone who has, like, even people with 9800X3Ds and top of the line RAM and everything, the game still runs shit. And then you're talking about an actual barrier to entry, because then you're not talking about $60, which people regularly spend on video games. And if anything, then at the very least, it's a matter of just fucking prioritizing. then you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars potentially, right? If not, at least hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. That is an actual barrier to entry that I think is fucking the game up. Because, yeah, people can push that a little bit because most people have some disposable income and can actually spend money on upgrading their computer and keeping up to date with video games. Most people do. But when you're talking about top of the line, top 10, 5% are the only ones getting decent performance, even then it's kind of ass. That's something that's going to make people not want to play your game. 100% it is. Right? Like, new customs for me right now is a fucking pain in the ass to play because that map runs like dog shit, you know? So he's 100% right about that.
Takes, dude.
The first point, not the second one.
Highly artistic experience and then compromise the fuck out of it for mass market appeal, make it free to play, and sell cosmetic DLC to fund it. If you can just make the game feel good to play, players will forgive everything that you fall short on, up to and including stealing the entire game from another developer.
I think he's 100% spot on. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday as well. It's like a game, as long as you just have a good game and a good product, people will just forgive so much bullshit. Again, look at Tarkov, right? How much shit did people forgive Tarkov for when it was in its sweet spot, in that golden age? Everything. There wasn't at least a lot less cheaters than it is now. That was pretty much the same. You know, it was just as buggy. It was still badly optimized, but the game was so fucking good, right? It had that perfect balance of accessibility. It was similar enough to other FPS games. It wasn't very restrictive, you know, because you did not have the weight system. You did not have the new armor system, the plate system and stuff like that. You didn't have inertia. Inertia isn't in itself that big of a problem, I think, but that's a different discussion. It's like, but those systems that sort of just set Tarkov so much to the side of general FPS games that made it no longer very relatable to a general audience. And it made it very niche by that. And it also made it very inaccessible for a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people would get turned off by those mechanics, you know? They would go into a raid and expect to loot shit, and then they'd loot half a bag, and then they were like, they were at half movement speed, and they're just like, what the fuck, you know? Am I literally disabled because I'm carrying 45 kilos? What the fuck, you know? Like, that's not a good feeling, and it turns people off, right? And yeah, it's, yeah. I think...
love Tarkov, but...
I think people would... Because there wasn't those things in the game, and the game was so good at its core, the core gameplay cycle, the core progression, all of that was so good. People would forgive a lot of the bugs, a lot of the problems, the performance, the hackers. People would forgive it because the core experience was just so good. Or at least, if not forgive, it would make it much more tolerable to deal with the bad shit in the game.
But real talk, dude, that shit runs like a computer virus. I haven't been able to play Tarkov for months because the performance has just tanked worse and worse with every subsequent patch since I started playing, and every other game runs just fine.
Yeah, that's the funny thing as well. Tarkov has gotten worse in optimization. I don't think I've ever experienced my Tarkov frames going up after an update. I think that's fairly true.
On PC, so I switched to the optimized free version, Arena Breakout Infinite. I literally do not care if Tencent sent more fun to Mission Impossible through the skylights of BSG to snatch Tarkov's source code. If the copycat is fun and free and runs better than Tarkov, check, I am going to play it, and I'm pretty sure that's how most people think of video games. Is it shitty to steal art from a genuine artist? Yes, absolutely. But if said artist is notoriously shady, non-communicative, and just disrespectful,
Let's see. Okay, so what does it say here?
Absolutely. But if said artist is notoriously shady, non-communicative, and just
Non-communicative. Why on earth did my activity on Twitter suddenly become the only evidence that we are working on the game? It's like I didn't. Fucking bullshit. I mean, I can understand some of Nikita's frustration, right? Because some stuff is just like, bro. Like, that's a weird thing to evaluate the productivity of the BSG team on, you know? Like, I can agree.
disrespectful
Kind
to
of.
his...
I don't know what the initial question here is, though, but QY. It's time to start preparing for the release. It's time to understand who are the true believers. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. This is kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier. They have this sort of, this isn't necessarily too disrespectful, I think, but I think it's just bad. You know, you're like basically saying to have your player base, if you're not a true believer, then don't play the fucking game. Ooh. And it's like, okay. I mean, I can get being creatively committed to something, but I think, you know, you cannot be surprised that Tarkov is doing worse than it was, if this is your attitude, you know?
Fans, well, you won't count me among them. It's hard to defend someone's artistic integrity when you feel like they just kind of suck. So anyway, fuck this dipshit morality argument over which soulless money machine financially tied to a problematic authoritarian military-industrial complex is the good one. ABI's got this in the bag because as shitty as Tencent's reputation is abroad, they're good at funding and enabling their studios to do their thing. You just don't become the largest multimedia conglomerate in China without knowing how to tap into your target audience's wallet. Tencent's the primary investor behind League of Legends, Fortnite, PUBG, Path of Exile, just to name a few of the big ones. I mean, this company is...
That's actually very true. Like, they're in everything. And I think they do that correct, right? I think they do that correctly. Is, you know, can kind of like see and tell what is going to do well because it just has that mass appeal, right? Definitely.
Made of fucking money. Meanwhile, someone has to make a new video every other month on the...
Was that BSG selling a cheater?
Made of fucking money. Meanwhile...
BSG selling a cheater, their 9th account, just to stay afloat? Yeah. That's also a very common criticism. But at this point, you're like... I mean, that probably accounts for a good amount of BSG's profit. Or their influx of new players are actually just cheaters that come back because they got banned.
Someone has to make a new video every other month on the obviously dubious financial standing of BSG. Pretty much anyone who does the math has concluded that BSG's single largest source of income are banned cheaters and cheat developers. Literally, who the fuck is buying multiple copies of the game at once? What are you, high? Nobody normal buys multiple copies of...
Oh, well, okay. After the successful completion of payment, the gift activation code will be sent to a specified email. Give this code to your friend and he will be able to activate the version you purchased in his account. Huh. They seem to have changed this practice since the Pestle interview, but maybe it's just seasonal.
Concluded that BSG's single largest source of income are banned cheaters and cheat developers. Literally, who the fuck is buying multiple copies of the game at once? What are you, high? Nobody normal buys multiple copies of any video game to hand out to their friends. That is
that's actually,
not a reliable business model. Those packages are for dudes who will be banned twice this month or will use cheats to power level and resell the account, and everyone knows it. And on top of that, the number of game sales happening for Tarkov is trending.
That's true. I didn't know there was this big of a market. But wow, there's actually this much selling of accounts. Wow. Level 19 EOD clean safe account for $600. What the fuck, bro? That takes you a week.
And everyone knows it. And on top of that, the number of game sales...
I mean, if you want to sell a level 50 account with Kappa, that's something. Because I saw that there as well at like 500. Right? Level 56, Kappa, Lightkeeper, Max Hideout, Fence, $600. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense at least.
Power level and resell the account, and everyone knows it. And on top of that, the number of game sales happening for Tarkov is trending down over...
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that fucking explosion.
Time. The game is losing its hype, and it's not even out yet. That's the main reason why I'm pretty sure BSG is cooked long term. Their reputation in the community is catching up with them, and they have no reason. Pretty sure BSG on over.
Damn, that's actually like interesting. Yeah.
Time. The game is losing its hype, and it's not even out yet. That's the main reason.
Yeah, it's not far from them being back at the levels it was pre-explosion, you know? pre-blowing
I'm
up.
pretty sure BSG is cooked long term. Their reputation in the community is catching up with them, and they have no reasonable way of regularly getting money from players who bought their edition years ago. Soon they'll just have to push the game out, and outside of a couple map DLCs that they'll inevitably try to avoid giving to EOD and Unheard players, because, of course they will. The goalposts are always moving at Nikita's house. Like, what do they got? I have zero faith in either of these companies to, quote, do the right thing, but More Fun is at the very least focused on improving the user experience over more random bullshit nobody wants. I feel like More Fun's got a lot more to prove as a young developer competing with a notorious industry titan, and having the mobile game as a foundation to the PC game has led to breakneck development speed. ABI sends out surveys to players every couple weeks, and the feedback is actually used in the next patch. People said, give us small containers for free and free gear so I can play with my casual friends. And a couple weeks later, they just did it. No antagonistic get good retard from the developer. Not even a base cost to buy those features, which they absolutely could have twisted the knife for. They could have gotten $5 out of every single one of us, no problem. More Fun has a lot to learn about the PC market in general, but to their credit, they are learning. And my dude, I think these kids can cook. The upcoming...
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the thing too. It's like, that's like the thing that I think a lot of people have pointed out is like how quickly ABI is able to pick up, the developers from ABI are able to pick up on what needs to be done and what they should be doing. They also, I think, announced like there's this massive update coming. That's probably what he's gonna like talk about here, but that there's this like massive update coming with tons of stuff that the players really want, and they're able to do it like really quickly. It's just like a few months since their last like major thing or something. That's impressive. Like, you gotta respect it, and they're gonna beat Tarkov just on that probably.
Market in general, but to their credit, they are learning, and my dude, I think these kids can cook. The upcoming Northridge map looks fucking awesome. The mobile game has all sorts of shit Tarkov's never even attempted already, and Secure Ops, if properly marketed to the console shooter market, will act as an amazing bridge for the slip and slide movement shooter amphetamine gamers to the tactical try-hard world of post-teenage reflexes we call hardcore extraction shooters. Speaking of console players, this is supposedly going to hit consoles at some point, which, rip Tarkov, hardly knew you, dog. Whether or not...
Yeah, like little things, like there's also little things that, ABI has improved on that Tarkov hasn't done. Like, for example, packing mags on the move. ABI did that, and that's obviously Tarkov taking inspiration from ABI on that, even though they might have had the thought, but now they were asked in a developer interview that I made a video on like a month ago, where they were asked about that, and they actually said that, oh, well, the biggest challenge to adding that to the game is just getting the animations right for all the third-person animations for all the mags. And I'm like, that's the biggest problem? I mean, like, what? Like, that's a kind of weird and thin excuse. But it also just shows that they are actually thinking about doing it now in Tarkov as well, because ABI has done it, right?
Not ABI actually surpasses Tarkov in terms of quality is almost irrelevant. You dog. What is supposedly going to hit consoles at some point, which, rip Tarkov.
Yeah, that's probably going to be rip Tarkov when it hits consoles, because consoles is fucking huge. Hang on. The console gaming market cap is significantly larger than the PC gaming market cap. That's very true. The console market generates around 53 billion in revenue compared to PC gaming's roughly 40 billion. In 2023, the digital console gaming market sales amounted to 31 billion compared to... So that's US. Wait, what? Oh, no, it's US dollars. Yeah, okay. Well, PC gaming is actually bigger than in 2023 and 4, but still, it's huge. Like, those are two contradictory stats, basically, but yeah. That's... Yeah, console is big. Console is fucking big.
Tarkov, hardly knew you, dog. Whether or not ABI actually surpasses Tarkov in terms of quality is almost irrelevant if it can just pull off Tarkov-ish for the masses, and the writing is on the wall, guys. Simply staying the course and adding to the game while keeping it well-marketed, stable, and free-to-play will 100% seal the deal long-term. Frankly, Tarkov itself started off as barely more than a stalker mod, and virtually every asset in the game is a scan of real items that they didn't make themselves. Nikita did not invent the AK-74, Who cares if it looks the same in both games?
Yeah.
Of course, if over the next 18 months ABI decides to go full send on girls' frontline crossover skins and other gaudy neckbeard cringe, rather than just making a real competitor to the game they're cloning, I will be way out of here and hoping for further Tarkov optimization with all the other Nikita tolerators.
Yeah.
But for now, I feel optimistic about the future of ABI and Tarkov's future.
That is, I think, the only thing they could really fuck it on, like, is doing that stuff. Like adding that sort of, like basically being a little bit too unserious about it, and losing the sort of aesthetic and the vibe that the game has. Because, you know, if they start adding anime titties and, you know, weeb shit, then people are just gonna be like, no thanks, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't like that shit, including me, right? I fucking hate that shit so much. It's like I have no interest in having a game filled with anime titties and weebs and katanas, you know, like, fuck that shit. It's like, but they could ruin it for a global market. They might still have some audience, obviously, because there's a lot of, like you say, you know, there's a lot of neckbeards out there, and they might have some appeal in the Chinese market, which is fucking huge, so, you know, understandable. But they're probably going to lose out on a lot of their global market if they do that. So I think that's the only thing they could kind of fuck themselves on globally, at least, is if they do that shit.
Sure looks, well, nebulous at best. I hope Tarkov can, in fact, get its act together and deliver a badass, well-optimized, and most importantly, fun game when it's time to leave beta and go gold, but I'm extremely happy to have some meaningful competition around now, if only to influence the artistic genius in the room to stop being such a douchey fucking...
Can be is influenced by meaningful competition. Continuous healing is the ability to heal. Yeah, exactly, that too. That's also something I think they added from ABI, yeah. That came in 0.16, so that's in Tarkov right now. Is that you can just hold the healing button.
Weirdo and make some quality of life changes for the sake of the players here and there. Anyway, that's about all I got to say. Play whatever you want and don't fight these people's battles for them. That's for their courts to handle. I don't use...
Yeah, true. I agree. Like, who the fuck cares, you know? I mean, originality is always good and it should be respected and it should be treasured, but it's like everyone takes inspiration from everyone else. That's nothing new. That's what artistry is kind of all about. And to be honest, I don't really care that much. It's like any other product that you're making. If someone else can make it better, too bad.
Usually make videos like this, so if you liked it, please let me know in the comments. The dreaded algorithmic hydra just behind the screen hungers for that engagement, and if not sated, it will absolutely drag me down to the depths of the search results. So, you know, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think both games need to hit long-term profitability and success. Do you care who's right or wrong, or are you just trying to play a game? Do you think the United States government should publicly apologize for the mistreatment of J-Rod the alien, held at S4, level 4-5 near Area 51 since the 1960s until his untimely death? Hashtag flowers for J-Rod. Anyway, I gotta go. There's Men in Black inside my house suddenly.
That's a good video. Good video. I'm gonna like that. But yeah. It's a good video. I kind of agree a lot. I think there's definitely like some discussion to be had in terms of like how to monetize the game and stuff. And again, I do kind of want to try and make a video talking a little bit about that for Tarkov and just try and get some discussion going, because it's an interesting topic, right? And yeah, it's it would be interesting to investigate a little bit and try and see what, you know, what we could come up with in terms of a solution there. Because yeah, BSG has to make money. That's there's nothing, you know, they have employees to pay and servers to pay for, so that's not really a secret. But yeah, good video, man. Holy shit. Yeah, I think ABI is coming up the long side on Tarkov. It definitely is. It's just pulling past on the long side. It's slowly but surely. It's not, you know, cutting them off in the corner. It's just gonna win in the long run. It's just got way more speed, way more momentum. I think unless the devs kind of sell out a little bit to instead profit in the short term, or they fuck up in some other way, if they just kind of stay the course like he says, I think ABI is gonna take over Tarkov. ABI is gonna be the Tarkov type game in the next years. I think so. Unfortunately, because I love Tarkov and I want Tarkov to do well, but I think Tarkov's days are over, unfortunately. So yeah, interesting video, very good video. So go give it a like. But yeah, that's it. That's my thoughts on that. Maybe I gotta try out ABI then. At some point soon.